Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with the eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Heaping Spoonful, the podcast sponsored by Benny Keith Foods that puts the spotlight on chefs and restaurateurs from across the Mid-South. I am your host, Kelly Bass, and it's my privilege to continue a lifelong love of all things foodie with these conversations. I started reviewing restaurants in the 1980s and never really stopped writing and talking about food. And yes, I am old. My guests today are Lisa Provencio-Jones and Bert Jones, owners of Gaskins Cabin Steakhouse in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, one of the coolest resort towns, not just in the state, but in the country. And for the first time, we were recording Heaping Spoonful on location. We're at the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs. So welcome to the Heaping Spoonful road trip, Lisa and Bert.
Thank you, Kelly. Good to be here.
Glad you all are. I appreciate it. From the looks of your menu and the glowing reviews you get, I am sure Gaskins Cabin Steakhouse would be successful even if you were housed in a metal building somewhere, but you most certainly are not. Rather, your restaurant is built around a two-room log cabin that was constructed in 1864, which, if I can believe what I read on the internet, makes it the oldest building still standing in Carroll County. So y'all tell our listeners about the history of the place.
Well, it's a very colorful history. It was built in 1864 by a guy named John Gaskins. John was originally from Indiana, came down in the 1840s, built a cabin. And this is actually the second cabin on this site.
Wow.
Because when the Civil War started in North Arkansas, being from Indiana, he wanted no part of the Confederacy. So he moved his family to Springfield, Missouri for the duration. And when he came back, the whole place had been burned out.
Wow.
So he and his sons rebuilt the cabin, and it's actually a dog trot cabin. It's basically two cabins under a common roof with a breezeway in between.
Okay, cool.
And they call it a dog trot because dogs would literally trot right through the breezeway.
Wow. So your restaurant's website says that in the 1980s, somebody made the effort to make the cabin the focal point of the first restaurant on that site. Do you all know much about the earliest days of the restaurant where you are now?
We know a bit. No one's really quite sure of when it occurred, sometime in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
But Greg and Susan Schneider started it. They took it from a private home. It had been a private home for 120-something years. And they took it and peeled drywall off the inside and exposed the actual logs that were originally placed there. And they built it into Gaskins Cabin Restaurant.
Okay.
Greg Schneider is still around the area. He owns the Railway Winery on Highway 187. Just about 4 or 5 miles from the cabin, and that was the beginning of it.
Wow, cool. So you all have owned Gaskins Cabin Steakhouse since 2008, and we are recording this. I hope people are listening forever and ever, but we're recording this in mid-June of 2022, so 14 years. What were you doing before you became restaurant owners?
Well, we were in the business world. I was in technology, and my husband was in manufacturing, but we were both, I was in the restaurant business prior to that, 10, 15 years prior to that, for 20 years. So
okay, so you had the background, but you'd gotten out of it, and you were in technology. And Bert, what were you doing?
And I was manufacturing bath and body products.
Okay, well, somebody's got to do it because we certainly have to use them. Cool. When you took over, did you have to do a lot of work, or did the folks that had made it the Gaskins Cabin Restaurant, did they have it pretty much the way you needed it, or did you all have to do quite a bit of work on it?
No, it was pretty much the way we needed it in terms of operations. When we came in, we did do some additions and changes to the menu a bit, but we kept it fairly consistent.
Right.
In terms of the type of items that we offer.
I mean, was it a steakhouse from when you got it, or did it morph its way into being a steakhouse?
Yeah, we purchased Gaskins Cabin Steakhouse.
Oh, okay.
And we've kept it as Gaskins Cabin Steakhouse.
Right, which I've learned, again, we've done a lot of these, and I've known from personal experience, you just really can't go wrong with steak. I mean, and as you know, not everything that you serve, but certainly is the focal point. And I would say for a town its size, and of course, you know, there's only about 2,000 people or a little more than that in Eureka Springs. And of course, it's a huge tourist destination. It has a really vibrant and varied dining scene. I mean, do you feel like you guys have carved out a particular niche for yourself, or are there a lot of competitors in the steakhouse space?
I wouldn't say in the steakhouse space. I would say in the restaurant space, most definitely we have quite an eclectic amount of restaurants here and really good ones. But in terms of steaks, a variety of steaks, and really being a classic steak house, we're probably the closest thing to it in town. And because of that, our menu is fairly limited. We focus on our steaks, and then we offer a few other things for people who aren't meat eaters. And our menu is fairly small, but we keep it very classic.
Yeah, I can tell that too. And I also saw reservations strongly recommended because you don't want people showing up and
I hate to disappoint, and we do a lot. So yes,
yeah,
in terms of being able to seat.
Sure. What is the seating capacity of Gaskins Cabin Steakhouse?
We have 20 tables.
Okay, so it's somewhere around, I guess, 80, or maybe there's some two tops in there. But yeah, so not huge, but you know, so as I say, you need to make your reservations, folks, for sure. So when I hopped on your website and began with your starters, all three look great. I adore baked brie, I really do, and the honey drizzle's a nice touch. But I was struck by classic escargot, and like you say, I mean, that's a steakhouse classic. Or, you know, snails aren't for everybody. Do you sell a decent amount of escargot?
We do indeed.
Cool.
And the thing about the escargot as it's being served or taken to a table, the wine, butter, garlic sauce that it sits in just permeates the entire place and often prompts additional orders just because of
how great it smells.
Right.
Yeah, I've had it several times, and yeah, I take a little bread and sop up the fabulous sauce and juice around it. And then I also saw another, I mean, again, the steakhouse classic, the wedge salad. And I'll just tell you all, tell us about how the wedge goes and how it goes over with your guests.
It's, as you said, it's a classic. It has to be cold. It has to be on a cold plate. In my view, it has to be blue cheese.
Yes.
And, I guess the only variation that we would do that I can see, having eaten in hundreds of restaurants and ordering the wedge, is we do a pickled onion.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, but it's, it's all about the blue cheese and the crunch and the crisp. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I have a friend, and, he listens to my podcast some. He lives in Atlanta. And whenever I tell him who my guests are going to be, he goes to their menu and he tells me what he's going to get when he comes to your restaurant. Well, he's getting a wedge, by the way, nice. among other things before he gets on the steak. And I see that you feature 6 salad dressings. Again, some steakhouse staples, blue cheese, Thousand Island, and that all are house-made. And I know you could buy some decent salad dressings, but I guess that extra effort's just worth it because of the quality.
100%.
You wouldn't have it any other way.
That's why we're small.
Yeah.
This is what we can do, and we do everything really well. I'm a little biased, but yeah, sure, definitely.
Well, obviously your 14-year run, and the fact that people have to jump in line early to get a reservation is proof of that. Cool. So, all right. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break here on Heaping Spoonful. We'll be back in just a bit with Lisa Provencio-Jones and Bert Jones, the owners of Gaskins Cabin Steakhouse in the resort town of Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Kelly Bass.
All right, we're back. We're back on Heaping Spoonful, continuing our conversation with Lisa and Bert. So, folks, we saved the literal meat of the matter, your beef, until after the break. Prime rib is at the top of the list, and it is listed as your house special. And, there's something special about prime rib. I like a filet, I like a ribeye, I like a New York strip, but prime rib is just, I don't know, I think early in my life it may have been like I went to Steak and Ale or somewhere and I saw prime rib for the first time, and I like the little crusty outside part too. So tell us about that cut, the size of it. Is it in multiple sizes, or you just serve one size? Tell folks who don't know how prime rib is made, how it's made, and then is it your top beef seller? So all of those questions.
I think we're both going to jump in on this one. That's for fine. Sure.
Sure.
As you said, prime rib is not one of those dishes you can get anywhere. And oftentimes when you do, it's just the quality isn't there. Our prime rib is 14 plus ounces. We hand cut each one to order. We can go as low as rare and as high as well done. I think in the 14 years that we have owned Gaskins, we've run out maybe 3 times, which is a rarity. I'm going to let Bert tell you more about it because he's so enthusiastic.
I do love it. When we're walking through the restaurant and someone asks us for a recommendation, I always say, "Do you like prime rib? Because if you do, get the prime rib. If you're not that big a fan of prime rib, then hit that ribeye."
Right.
But it's done really, really well. Mark Cook, our chef, has been doing it for literally a gajillion years. And it's oven roasted. He's just got it down to a science. And it's served with house-made au jus. And then your choice of sides. And it's just really well done.
Is it your top seller of beef?
It is. We sell more prime rib than anything. Probably a ribeye and a filet comes close to it, but it's what we do.
You know what? My mouth is literally watering. It's cool, and I really love that your steaks. You keep it, pretty simple and straightforward. As you said, we have a smaller menu, but we do everything really, really well. You cut your prime rib, as it's ordered, and there it comes out. So you got ribeye, New York strip, and the filet. Or what are the general sizes on those? Do you have multiple filet sizes, or is it just kind of one?
No, we do an 8-ounce filet, a 14-ounce prime rib. We do a 16-ounce ribeye and a 12-ounce New York strip.
Oh, man, it all sounds good. Very much so, very much so.
And if you ask me which one's my favorite, that's like asking me which child I love the most.
Right.
And it just depends on my mood.
Yeah, and how they're acting that day.
Exactly.
Sure.
So all the steaks are really amazing. So it's really about preference.
Sure. Do you feature a particular brand of beef or not?
We absolutely do. We love 1855.
1855.
We have spent the majority of our time in terms of working the restaurant is finding the perfect meat. We do it on a regular basis. We do it today. We did it from the beginning. We shop it. We blind taste.
Right.
We look for consistency. We're picky. And it's just come through for us year over year.
Yeah, well, it's nice that these days there are more choices, I mean, those of us who walk in and get our beef at Kroger or, some grocery store, you get what's sitting there. I mean, you might get a chance to do prime versus choice, but in the restaurant business today, I mean, there are lots of, signature brands of beef, and 1855 is the one y'all have found to be your favorite. And as we talked earlier, you're a steakhouse of the highest order, and but you offer other choices with seafood a focus. So talk about you have a salmon and 2 shrimp choices because they all make my mouth water. What are the natures of those 3?
Well, they're all delicious and prepared fresh. Obviously, the salmon is broiled. Done on the broiler, and it comes with sitting on a bed of long grain and wild rice with some accoutrement that comes with, and then the shrimp scampi is done in a white wine, butter, and garlic sauce over linguine.
Classic scampi, yum. And there's one other shrimp besides the scampi?
The fried shrimp.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's probably not something that Lisa and I would go order, but we sell a ton of fried shrimp.
People love it.
And Lisa has gotten to a point where if we're working hard in the restaurant, she just needs a nibble. She'll ask our line cook, "Can you just throw 4 shrimp in the fryer for me real quick?" And so we eat that quite often, actually.
Yeah, well, they're awful tasty, particularly right when they come out of the fryer.
Exactly.
So with great beef, usually comes great wine. Do you all have what would you consider a strong wine program at Gaskins?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we do Camus, Silver Oak, Nickel, and then our mainstream wines.
Yeah, we've got several wines to fit all budgets.
Right.
So we've got the Carnivore goes for about $30 a bottle in that neighborhood,
which is very, very
very
reasonable.
reasonable.
Yeah.
But we also serve a very nice Mount Veeder Cabernet
those are
from Napa
good.
Valley
Yep.
that goes for about $75, I think, a bottle, and all the way to Nickel and Nickel, which is $135. And
Yeah, and Camus is probably up there in that
neighborhood
ballpark
as well.
Well, people who are going, springing for a good steak often will spring for good wine, and I'm one of those people. So that really sounds cool. What about cocktails? Do you have a particular focus, or is it just?
I'm going to start this off, but then I'll let Lisa finish it. A few years ago, Lisa developed a specialty drink card that really was based back in the Prohibition days. And so there's a ton of classic cocktails on there, things like the Greta Garbo and the Aviation and the Vesper and things of that nature, along with classic martinis.
Right.
And my favorite drink to make when I'm working behind the bar is our smoked old fashioned.
Smoked old fashioned.
It's made with bullet rye, and while we're preparing the cocktail, we actually set some cherry chips on fire right there at the bar, and put a slice of orange right next to the fire, and then cover it with the glass that the cocktail is going to be served in.
Oh, God, that is
so
cool.
the smoke permeates the glass and the orange, and so when the old fashioned itself, the rye whiskey is poured into the glass, then this campfire aroma just comes and meets your nose, and it's.
Sounds like it'd be fun.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah. Should ask you to bring some samples, but no, that also sounds like it'd be fun to watch.
And I said I was going to let Lisa talk about it, and then I just hugged the whole.
Oh no, good. You did well.
No, that sounds very, very appealing for sure. And I'm sure, I'm already full enough after plowing through a big slab of prime rib, but you have dessert, I'm presuming.
We have amazing desserts. Again, they're very limited. We do, on a rare occasion, up to 4, but we typically have 3. Our chocolate bread pudding is probably their biggest consistent hit. It's a lighter. It's not a heavy bread pudding. It's got this kind of souffle texture to it.
Yeah, I like those better.
We do the classic creme brulee, a key lime on a butter cookie.
Oh, man.
But right now I also have, oh my goodness, this is to die for, peanut butter cheesecake.
Ridiculously good.
It's ridiculous. And a chocolate mousse cake. And
it all
I know,
sounds so good.
It's ridiculously good.
Yeah. So Eureka Springs is a resort town. It's a seasonal town. But you guys, some restaurants I know just shut. Y'all stay open. You just kind of restrict your days or hours. And what sort of, talk about the kind of the flow across a year of how things play out for you all in Eureka Springs.
So it's definitely confusing. We initially, and I think for the first 8 years, we were closed the month of January. Yeah. And we would close for a couple of weeks in August because people would go back to school, kids would go back to school and families wouldn't travel and so forth. And then we found that there was this need that people, would get stir crazy. And so we decided that we would be open all year long. We do January's, Fridays and Saturdays. February we do Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We're always open on New Year's Eve and always open on Valentine's, regardless of the day. March and April, we go to 4 days, and then we hit May, and that starts our 5-day week through Thanksgiving. And then from Thanksgiving to the end of the year, we go 4 days. So I always recommend that people call and check, because in those winter months, this year, I think we were closed 7 days in February due to weather.
Yeah. Oh, well, it was.
So it's hard. I mean, it's a juggling ordering. The weather could be good, and we order, and then we don't get to open because, the weather hits. So always call because, again, we hate to disappoint people and have them show up and not be able to get in.
Yeah. Well, that makes perfect sense.
That seems to be the schedule that's worked for us for the last few years. Yeah. We'll continue.
And there's enough people around here in coming that, I've given them a couple of shots in the colder months to come on Friday and Saturday. And
our locals like it.
Sure.
Because they're stuck at home in January. They really show up a lot.
Yeah, that's good to get the local support. So everything that I see sounds like things are cooking right along, so to speak, at your restaurant. Do you have any changes in the works, or are you sort of in if it ain't broke, don't fix it mode?
But in terms of the restaurant and the menu, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But we do have one change that will be in the works soon. We've been in this restaurant for 14 years. We've enjoyed it. We've made a great deal of friends. We love seeing people over and over again in our restaurant, and they know us and we know them. But after 14 years, we feel like we've put our mark on the restaurant and it's time to pass the torch. And so we've recently put it on the market for sale.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I am sure there'll be some folks who would love to inherit such a going Jesse, as it were. You know, you've got a great thing going. You've got a great clientele and base. And I hope I know there'll be people who are like, hey, I'd love to take on trying to continue to grow what they've been growing for 14 years. So.
And if anyone in podcast land is listening, it truly is a historic location.
Sure.
With a great reputation, and not just because of Lisa and I, but for the past 30 plus years. And it's a turnkey business that would make money from day one.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's the sales pitch, and it sounds like a great. Well, good and good luck. I mean, and again, I know chapters of life come to as you move through. You've done, as you said, you were in the restaurant business before. You got into the tech side. You're making bath and body products. You've been running a restaurant. Hey, you got plenty more time to do other fun stuff. So good luck on all of that. Well, listen. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Bert, for being my guest today on Heaping Spoonful. Good luck with your remaining time at Gaskins, and good luck in finding the right person to pass that torch to. And I appreciate all of you listening to Heaping Spoonful today. Remember, we post new episodes on the first and third Tuesdays of each month. So be on the lookout for those and check out some ones you missed. And goodbye, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.